Now, I recently mentioned that I didn't like these shoes, and a lot of people were curious why. Now, these are Ultras, Ultra Superior 4.0s, and frankly, most of these shoes that I have set up here are Ultras as well. A lot of people like these shoes. A lot of people love these shoes. And I did too for a long time. Clearly, I've been wearing them for years. However, I wore these on the 300-mile Sheltowee Trace Trail, and I wasn't thrilled. My feet are important. Your feet are important. In hiking, all feet matter. After all, our feet are what carries us thousands of miles across the country, through different states, through different natural areas and landscapes and parks. So finding the right shoe is a very important thing. So in my quest to find the most ideal shoe, I gave these a shot. The Ultra Superior 4.0. Now, I've long worn Altra Running shoes. What I actually have set up here is kind of a timeline of some of my running shoes. I don't have all of them, but these are a few. I think these are from 2015. These are from 2016, 2017, late 2017. We'll skip over these here, and these, of course, are from 2019 most recently. And of course, even before that, I was wearing Ultra shoes. These are just the ones I've saved because although they may look a little raggedy, I feel like a lot of these still have some life in them, and that maybe I'd like to continue wearing them for just another trip here or there. Now, you may notice that almost all of these are Lone Peaks. That these 4 pairs here are Lone Peaks. It's kind of a mid-weight shoe, extremely common these days. If you go on to any long-distance hiking trail, you're going to see a lot of these shoes. So although almost all of these shoes are Lone Peaks, you'll notice that these, though they are Ultra, are a different model entirely. And these shoes that I was wearing in 2018 and continue to wear today are a different brand entirely. So why did I switch? Why did I stop wearing something that clearly worked for me for so very long? That's because Ultra changed. In 2017, I tried these, the newest model of Ultra, and instantly I knew something was wrong. Something had changed. Something was different. Though they are the same exact model that I had been wearing for years, it just wasn't right. I had just come off hiking 500 miles in these shoes. I was in very good shape, and when I switched shoes, I bought these. The same model that I had been wearing for years, just a newer version, the same exact size that I'm used to, and yet I was experiencing all sorts of problems. That they just didn't fit the same way they used to. That they were tighter on the sides, that I was getting blisters on the sides of my feet, and they just weren't nearly as comfortable as they had been. I even asked an Ultra representative in person if something had changed in how wide these are, in how these fit, and he told me no, that everything was the same. At least in that regard, the width and exactly how they should fit. Now, something may be the same with these. So they are the same model, but I can tell you from very real experience that they are not as wide as they used to be. That these fit way more tightly around my foot than they ever did before. So something had clearly changed. Even trying on all of my old shoes, they are still very, very comfortable, while these are still not. So I don't really think it was my foot that changed. I think it was the shoe. Now, looking at all these shoes, starting from the very beginning and heading forward in time, you can actually see a difference when we get to the shoes that weren't comfortable to me, that didn't fit well. The second we get to these shoes, you'll notice a difference in how I lace my shoes. That I'm starting to skip holes up towards my toe box, up towards the very front. I'm skipping holes. And this is in efforts to widen them manually. That in that time, I recognized that something was wrong, and this was me trying to change that fact. Now, skipping laces didn't help. You know, it didn't make the shoe any wider, and I was still having problems with it. And so I felt I could no longer trust the same shoes that I had worn for the past 5 years. They no longer fit. What can I do? So you can see I made the switch. I made the switch right after that. I felt like, all right, I can't deal with Altra anymore, so I tried some New Balance. These are the New Balance Minimus, and they are super wide and really a dream on my feet. I wore these shoes on the Pacific Crest Trail, I wear these shoes in training, and I wear them for just general use every single day. But these, the New Balance shoes, have their own set of problems. They are just a little bit too minimal. Perfect in every other way, but don't provide that protection for my feet that I would really like in a shoe, and generally because of how minimal they are, my feet feel a lot more fatigued at the end of a long day than they would if I was wearing something with much more cushion. So moving on to the Superiors. The Superior 4.0. Still made by Altra Running. A slightly different model from the Lone Peaks we have here, just a little bit more minimal, and now, maybe a year, 2 years, a couple models later, I was hoping that maybe something was fixed. You know, I heard that these were really the go-to, something that I would like. Now, in the store when trying on shoes, I immediately knew nothing had changed from 2017, and that they were still too tight and not wide enough, ultimately. For a company that really pushes how wide their shoes are, how they are foot-shaped, how these shoes have so much room in them, allowing your toes and your feet to splay naturally and keep away injuries and enhance stability and all this other stuff in regards to how wide they are and the benefits of that, why am I still having this issue? It's one of their main selling points. If you go on their website and you look at like why Altra, that's the first thing that's mentioned. So again, why am I having this problem? I don't know. What has changed from 2014, 2015, all the way now until 2019, and why has it changed? So I try to size up. I tried 2 sizes up. I went to an entirely different store that had more sizes, and even trying on shoes that are far too large for me, 3 sizes above what I normally wear, they were still too tight on the sides. Though now, with 3 sizes up, I had a ton of room in front of my toes, and still too tight on the sides. So I grabbed, ultimately, after a lot of thought, what I felt fit best, which was, of course, the size I normally wear, and I went on my way. So why did I stick with these shoes, even though I knew they weren't going to be perfect? Well, ultimately, I wanted to try something a little different, and I felt that the width of the shoe wasn't really my main goal here, or wasn't really my main concern for this hike, because I already learned that I love the really wide shoe, like this New Balance right here. And what I wanted to try was something with just a little bit more cushion than this New Balance. And I felt that a 300-mile hike, the Sheltowee Trace, was going to be perfect for that. These do offer a little bit more cushion than the New Balance. They are not nearly as wide, but again, that's okay. I want to try something different. These New Balance here being the most minimal shoes I've ever used. The Superiors being one up from that. And then the Lone Peaks being one up from the Superiors with just a little bit extra cushion again. Now on the Sheltowee Trace Trail hike, I learned something new. That obviously I need a wider shoe. Nothing new there, nothing revolutionary there for me, obviously. But I also learned something much greater. That minimal shoes, even something like this, aren't really the jam for thru hikes. I had noticed this with my dad, who runs marathons, he's an Ironman, and in general is just out training a lot, all the time. He was training in a different shoe than what he planned on wearing during the race. The same went for his cycling. He was training on a heavier, slower bike, and then when the race came along, he was racing on a super fast, crazy aero spaceship-looking bike, which is a similar enough idea. You work harder in training so you can be better off during the race. In my case, the race being a thru hike and the slower bike being minimal shoes. Minimal shoes will make you work harder, but in the process will strengthen the muscles in your feet. They'll strengthen your tendons and your ligaments. They will force you to walk more naturally, striking with your forefoot or your midfoot instead of your heel, and generally make you take shorter steps for a higher cadence rather than taking longer and more unnatural strides. Now, that all sounds great, but here's how I will use that information moving forward. I will train in minimal shoes, like these beautiful New Balance shoes right here, but when it comes time for the actual thru hike, I would like something with some extra cushion, just because I'm going to be doing 20 to 30 miles every day, day after day, and the extra cushion is really going to help to take some extra stress off of my feet during that time. You know, the thru hike isn't really the place where I should be strengthening my feet. That should all be in training. The thru hike is where I want to be comfortable, and when I don't really want to have my feet be super fatigued at the end of the day, and I believe that the extra cushion will certainly help with that. As for why wide shoes are so important to me, well, the width of your shoe and basically the width of your foot provides more stability. As you hike year after year, you'll notice your feet widen, and that is likely because it is your feet adapting to what it now sees your life as from its perspective. Wider, more stable, less prone to injury, distributing more pressure across the entire base of your foot instead of being slightly more pinpoint. So after going through a lot of shoes over the past 5 years or 6 years or however long it's been, I am back on the hunt. I still haven't found that perfect shoe, but now I am that much closer to what I really, really want in a shoe, and that much closer to understanding what I actually want in a shoe. Now, I may try the Altra Lone Peaks again, since it does provide that extra cushion, and, ultimately, it's a different model from the Superiors. It's been years since I tried them last, but I think I kind of want to break away from Altra entirely and not spend $100 to $130 on a pair of shoe. I was able to get these New Balance shoes for $40, and even if I'm buying something a little bit more expensive than that, I really want it to work, and I really want it to be nice, I don't want to spend that money and come across something that I'm not going to like. And I'm sure you guys all feel that same way. You don't want to spend the money on something that you're going to hate, or, generally, if it's not perfect, then I don't really want to wear it. Now, as a quick side note, if you are going to be trying Altra shoes, they really are a fantastic shoe, and a lot of people love them. A lot of people love them. Any long-distance hiking trail you go to, you will see a ton of Altras. But something to be careful of and something to be mindful of is if you're not used to a zero-drop shoe or a minimal shoe, and you're more accustomed to a more typical shoe, an everyday shoe, stuff like that, be very careful when switching to Altras or something like this. A lot of people will experience pain when switching to something like this because you're working different muscles in your feet, different muscles in your calves, ligaments, your tendons. Everything needs time to get used to that. So if you are going to switch to Altra shoes, give your feet, give your legs, give your muscles time to get used to them. They are fantastic shoes, but you do not want to just switch to these out of the blue right before a hike, because it's going to spell out problems, and it could spell out a more serious injury. A lot of people do love Altras, but it is definitely something to be careful of. So now my question to you is, what shoe should I be trying next? Now, I don't want something too minimal, and I also don't want something that's too thick, because something that's too thick brings on a whole slew of different problems that maybe we can talk about a different time. I would like something that's just right in the middle. A nice middle ground shoe that is very wide.